Hey, it's Clip of the Day time where Buck Sexton and I pick out the best hot take, the most fun that we had for all of you to be able to experience on the show.
That's right, and this segment is brought to you by ExpressVPN, which is the virtual private network that we trust to protect our online data.
When I use ExpressVPN, the big tech companies can't see my IP address, my identity is anonymized, and my data's encrypted. That gives me the absolute maximum protection.
And what I like is how easy it is to use. Just download the app to your phone or computer, and you're protected. So visit expressvpn.com/patriot today, and you'll get an extra 3 months free, or you can click on the link in the description below.
That's expressvpn.com/patriot, and now it's time for the clip of the day.
One of the charges has been dismissed against Rittenhouse. It has to do with a gun charge. This is what it sounded like. Let's play cut 20 as the judge in the case dismisses one of the counts against Kyle Rittenhouse.
Is the firearm here now?
Yes.
We can either measure it, or you can stipulate that it does not meet what I've stated are the requirements.
We are not disputing that the barrel length is appropriate.
Isn't it legal?
It is not a short-barreled shotgun or a short-barreled rifle, yes.
Either by barrel or by overall length?
Correct.
All right, and then count 6 is dismissed.
So, Buck, you're a lot more of an expert on firearms than I am. How in the world did it get to this point if the gun didn't fit the statutory authority under which he had been charged, that it gets to all the way to this point in the trial before that is dismissed?
The prosecution brought charges here, Clay, that were meant to send a political message.
Yeah.
That's why, and they were hoping to at least include a gun charge to give people all along a talking point where, oh, it was illegal for him to be there. It was illegal for him to even be carrying what he was carrying. False. It was not illegal for him to be there, nor was it illegal for him to be carrying this rifle. What they're talking about here is it an SBR, a short barrel rifle, and there are very specific qualifications for this based on the length of the actual barrel, right? That's why they said, do we need to measure this?
Yeah.
He's carrying what's essentially, he was carrying a pretty standard AR-15, which is a rifle, which under Wisconsin law, it's a semi-automatic rifle, he was allowed to be carrying. So now we don't have a gun charge. So this is, people were saying, oh, well, maybe we'd get him on, and when I say people, I mean the leftists who hate
Lesser
him.
charges sometimes happen.
Right. They threw the kitchen sink and then some at him with the equivalent of essentially murder one, right?
Yeah, premeditated murder is not happening in this case. If any jury, I don't even understand how that's not dismissed based on the facts that have been established in the case, frankly.
But they threw that in just because that was the prosecution's way of saying, yeah, we hate this kid too, libs. Don't worry, we hate him. We're going to charge him with a crime that he could get mandatory life. Understand, if that count were to be found by the jury to be guilty, he would spend the rest of his life, it's mandatory, no parole, rest of his life in prison. And the fact that they even included that in a case like this just goes to show you the level of malpractice. They never should have even brought charges against him. They overcharged him. They threw charges in that would be clearly, like this rifle one, disproven the moment it actually was tested in a court. But what they decided to do was use it all as just an opportunity to pile on and smear and see what they could get. So now it all comes down to the self-defense counts. Now it all comes down to, was Kyle Rittenhouse using force to stop a threat against him? Thankfully, we have video, so we know that the answer is yes. And also the politics of this, let's all be very clear, are less toxic, less fissile than they would be if he had shot any minorities at this.
He shot
BLM
three
riot.
white guys, which I think people are just now becoming aware of in the last week because he's been labeled a white supremacist. He's been labeled a racist. I'll be honest with you, when this story first came out, I presume that he had shot Black Lives Matter protesters who were black because that is the way in which the media conveyed these charges and this story.
And later on, we'll talk about some other calls for censorship in the big media that affect yours truly, Clay. But in the meantime, the New York Times being the dishonest and evil commies that they are. But in the meantime, I just would point out that they shut down this kid's ability to raise funds. It would be like saying, okay, yeah, you're entitled to a defense, But every bank in America is going to say that your accounts are frozen. They'll no longer carry any transactions for you. Are you really entitled to a legal defense then? Are you really getting the full benefit of your right to a trial as an American when platforms that are open to people decide you're guilty and therefore they'll kick you off? That's what they did here.
This was the time of the Great Wokening, which is now blowing up in Democrats' faces.